Whenever Paizo drops new content, I'm always really excited to bring you guys new videos on that content. And War of Immortals is no different. I'm pretty excited about the Animist and the Exemplar, but I'm not quite ready to do videos on those just yet. So instead I'm going to be covering the other options in this book. Hello team players! Today we're talking about the new Nephilim options. Let's dive in. And of course, I'm going to be starting with the 4 new lineages we got in War of Immortals. And of course, we're starting with Aeon Bound. You and your allies no longer need healer's tools in order to treat wounds. You still need it for things like treat poison, treat disease, and battle medicine, but treating wounds, no. You no longer need healer's toolkits. You and your allies. In addition, once per day, when anyone, treats your wounds and gets a failure or critical failure, you can increase the degree of success by 1 step. So just to recap, you don't need healer's tools to treat wounds on anyone, and neither does your party. And once per day, if you get a critical failure, you get a failure. And if you get a failure, you get a success. Very, very good for out-of-combat healers. This is a fantastic lineage. Highly recommend. Next we've got Battle Blooded. You become trained in Intimidation, or another skill if you're already trained, and you get the Intimidating Glare skill feat. One of the best skill feats in the game. Now you don't take the -4 for intimidating someone who doesn't understand your language. Plus, Battle Blooded leads to a few feats that are very good, so keep this lineage in mind. With Fault Spawn, you choose one deity and have a grudge against, and your character has a grudge against that deity. You gain the Fault Spawn reaction. You can use this reaction when you would roll a saving throw against a spell, but you haven't rolled yet. You gain a +1 bonus on the saving throw because you found some kind of fault in the spell. And this is +2 if the effect is divine and originates from a follower of the deity you chose for your grudge. To be honest, I like the first 2 better. I mean, granted, +1 on a saving throw is nothing to sneeze at, but you only get that +2 if the effect is divine and originates from a specific deity. So you're hardly ever going to get that +2. It's kind of situational, to be honest. Just like the next lineage I'm going to talk about. And finally, for lineages, we have Protean Kin. You gain resistance equal to half your level to a particular type of damage. This is chosen randomly between acid, electricity, or sonic damage. In addition, you get a +1 to saving throws against anything that would give you the controlled condition. I'm not a huge fan of this lineage either. The elements that you can gain resistance to actually aren't all that common. And it's chosen randomly, which means you never know whether this is going to be effective or not. The +1 on saves against the controlled condition is good, but that is also incredibly situational. So, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you can take this, but I would only take it for the feats that are tied to this. Otherwise, it's just way too situational. Our first level feat is going to be Creative Prodigy, which requires that Protean Kin lineage I just talked about. You become trained in Performance and gain the Impressive Performance skill feat. In addition, whenever you use Performance to make an impression, you get a +1 bonus on the check. Making an impression is very important outside of combat. That can give you more quests, make you make more money, all sorts of different things. This is a fantastic out-of-combat feat. Next we have Intuitive Crafting, which requires the Aeon Bound lineage, which is one of the better ones. You become trained in crafting. If you're already trained in crafting, then you get specialty crafting for a specialty of your choice. If you have both, then you become trained in any skill you want. Also, when you critically fail to repair an item, you get just a regular failure instead. This is great for any crafting character, but it's especially good because of that last sentence for any character that wants to use a shield, as you can never damage the shield when repairing it. And if you happen to be a dwarf Nephilim, you can take Dwarven Reinforcement to go along with this. Fantastic combo there. Irrepressible is really good against fear effects, and any emotion effect, really. Auto crit successes on saves against emotion effects. Basically what I mean by that is, if you roll a success, you get a critical success against saves against any emotion effect. Really good if your character has high will saves, and decent if they don't. And finally, we have Sublime Mobility, which is a little situational. You either gain a climb speed or a swim speed of 10 feet. This doesn't require any particular lineage, so any Nephilim can take this, but the swim speed especially is pretty situational. But that climb speed could be incredibly useful, but it is still a little situational because you need something to actually climb in order for a climb speed to be effective. Bottom line, if you think you're going to run into a lot of that, or you're in a sea-based campaign, I'd take this. Otherwise, you're probably better off with a different Nephilim first level feat. For 5th level feats, first we have Amorphous Aspect. This requires the Proteankin lineage. You gain a +1 bonus on checks to escape or squeeze. In addition, when you roll a critical failure in order to squeeze through an area, you get a regular failure instead. If you'd rather be Proteankin and not Muse touched, this is a fantastic feat to take. As with what I said in my last Nephilim video, which was about a year ago, spellcasters escaping from grapples is pretty darn important. You can either take the Muse touch lineage and just get it then, or you can wait until 5th level and get it now with the Proteankin lineage. Bestial Brutality requires the Bestial Manifestation feat, which I talked about in my last Nephilim video. The unarmed attack you chose for Bestial Manifestation gains the Deadly D6 trait. In addition, when you crit with this unarmed attack, you gain the Brawling Weapon Group's Critical Specialization effect. Which, if you don't know, Deadly D6 means an extra D6 damage on top of double damage when you crit. The Brawling Group's Crit Specialization effect is slowed 1, which is downright amazing. It's one of the few crit specialization effects that I actually really like. It's one of the best ones. This makes taking Bestial Manifestation actually worth it, especially if you want to use unarmed attacks. I am now going to recommend you take both these feats on a lot of characters that use the Nephilim heritage. Next, we've got a really good feat with Call to Battle. This gives you a reaction that is triggered when you lose the unconscious condition. You immediately stand. This also doesn't trigger reactions. I really don't think I have to tell you guys how amazing this feat is for any character, but it's especially good for martials. This effectively means we can just stand up. We don't have to waste an action doing that. And we don't trigger reactions either. This does require the Battle-Blooded lineage. So, this isn't available to all Nephilims. But if you are Battle-Blooded, this should be a no-brainer. Just flat out. It is ridiculously good. Next up for level 5, we have Extraplanar Haze. You can create a haze that grants you this concealed condition once per day for 2 actions. But you can't use this to hide or sneak as normal for concealment where your position is still obvious. This haze moves with you and lasts for a number of rounds equal to half your level. So currently 2. But this will go up as you level. If you're looking to not get hit, this is an excellent feat. In addition, this feat also leads to another feat which is going to help a lot. Really help the party a lot. In certain parties anyway. And again, any Nephilim can take this. So, keep this one in mind too. Resilient Physiology requires the Aeon-bound lineage. To use this feat, you must be suffering from disease or poison or taking persistent damage. Once per day, you can spend one action to either roll a saving throw against the disease or poison affecting you, and if you fail or critically fail, the stage doesn't increase. Or if you're taking persistent damage, you can use the action to make a DC 10 flat check to get rid of that persistent damage. Remember that this is in addition to the saving throw or flat check to get rid of these conditions that you automatically get. Which means if you're running into this type of thing a lot, then this feat is incredible. But if you're not, I'd skip this one. And lastly, for level 5, we have Towering Presence, which requires False Spawn. This is basically a once per hour enlarge spell, but only until the beginning of your next turn. You become large, you can become clumsy 1, your equipment grows with you, you get a +2 on melee damage, and your reach increases by 5 feet, or 10 feet if you started out as tiny, like if you're a sprite or something. This feat does not work if you're already large or larger. If you're wanting to be large, and you don't have a spellcaster that can cast the enlarged spell, or you're not a giant instinct barbarian, this is the feat you want to take. Otherwise, it's not going to be great for you. If you're the Proteankin lineage, you can take Anarchic Arcana. When you make your daily preparations, you're going to roll 2d12 and compare that to the list of spells in this feat. Whatever you roll, you can cast that spell once per day as a Divine Innate spell. Or you can cast the spell twice if you roll the same number. The spells are Acid Grip Blur, Gecko Grip, Humanoid Form, Illusory Object, Laughing Fit, Noise Blast, Resist Energy, See the Unseen, Shatter, Shrink, and Telekinetic Maneuver. All these spells are really good in the right situations, but because it's random, you're not really going to know whether this feat is going to be useful or not each day. Sometimes it will be, sometimes it won't. It all depends on what you roll. So it is situational, but you'll be glad to have it when it actually works out, especially if you're not a spellcaster. Extraplanar Cloud requires extraplanar haze. When you use extraplanar haze, you can make it a cloud rather than a haze if you spend an additional action. This works like any other cloud. So creatures that are inside the cloud are concealed to those outside it, and vice versa. Since it's a cloud now, you and your allies can use it to hide or sneak. Since it's a cloud now and not a haze, our position isn't obvious, which means us and our allies in a 10-foot emanation can use it to hide or sneak. It does gain the concentrate trait, which means barbarians won't be able to use this while raging. But this is a pretty great option for rogues and anyone else who wants to be sneaky. Next, we've got another battle-blooded feat with Glory and Valor. This is effectively a stance that lasts for 1 minute or until we critically fail a strike. For the duration, each time we hit a creature that is our level or higher, we get back hit points equal to half our level. This one is fantastic for any barbarian and especially for fighters, if they're going to hit more often than they miss. This is only a once per day thing, but it's basically free healing. Pretty darn good. Combine this with the Hobgoblin's feats that help you stay up, and you're going to have quite a tank. I'm not going to talk about Larcenous Tale too much, because it's basically the exact same feat as the Gonzi gets. Basically, we can steal stuff with our tail. That's pretty much all you need to know. It does require these skillful tail feats, and if we don't have a hand free, we put it in our space where we can pick it up later. Finally, for level 9 feats in this book, we have Methodical Magic. This feat requires the Aeon-bound heritage. We're going to choose 2 of the following spells, and we can cast them each once per day as second-rank innate divine spells. They are Calm, Dispel Magic, Lock, Mending, Shape Wood, or Translate. This one is a lot better than Anarchic Arcana because it's not random. You get to choose which of those spells you get, which makes it a lot less situational. But a lot of those spells are pretty situational. So, it depends on your campaign whether you take this or not. But it is at level 9, so at least you're going to know the kind of things you're running into. Okay, we've got 3 feats for level 13 in this book, starting with Alter Resistance, which is a reaction you can take when you take acid, electricity, or sonic damage. This allows you to change the resistance you get from the Proteankin heritage, which is required for this feat, to whatever you just took. However, this change only happens after you take the damage and lasts until your next daily preparations or you use this feat again. It's once per hour, so there's that. But if you get hit by a blue dragon's electricity breath, at least you're resistant to it from now on. So this feat is useful, but those damage types really aren't common. So it's still incredibly situational. Our second feat at level 13 is going to be Arise Ye Worthy. This is another battle-blooded lineage feat. You can cast Breath of Life as a Divine Innate spell once per day. Breath of Life is a pretty amazing spell and will come up. So, if you get to level 13, definitely consider this one. And then we have Impose Order, which is another once per day reaction that requires you to be Aeon-born. This reaction is triggered when you quickly fail a skill check or suffer a misfortune effect. If the trigger was a skill check, you receive a result of 10 plus your proficiency bonus without any bonuses or penalties instead of what you rolled. If it's a misfortune effect, it cancels it out. Plain and simple. This, of course, is identical to the Channel the God Mind feat from the Aphorites. So I think that's what they're trying to do here. The Chaos and Law versatile heritages. They're adding to the Nephilim rather than making them their own heritages. Because a lot of these feats are similar to other feats we've had before. But I have always thought that the Aphorite was a pretty good heritage. And this feat is definitely a reason why. Channel the God Mind is another feat we used to have from the Aphorites. This does require Aeon Bound, and it's a once per day thing. For 2 actions, we gain Precise Motion Sense out to a range of 60 feet, can see invisible creatures and objects, and gain the effects of a True Sight spell, with a counteract modifier equal to our perception. This effectively means that no one can hide from us. Precise Motion Sense, that's for stealth. Invisible creatures, we can see them. And True Sight. We can literally see through everything. We definitely don't need True Perception after that. And we don't even need to be Legendary in Perception to take this. Amazing feat here. I've always liked the Aphorite, and this is another reason why. And the last feat from this book is Pandemonium Eruption, which requires the Proteankin heritage. Once per day for 2 actions, we can deal elemental damage to all creatures within 15 feet of us. This is 14d6 either acid, electricity, or sonic damage, chosen randomly for each target. Each target does get a reflex save against the higher of our class DC or spell DC. However, if the target takes damage that's the same type as the one we're resistant to at the moment, then they take a -2 on the save. In addition, any target that quickly fails their save is also confused until the end of their next turn. This is another really good feat, but we do have to be careful with this, because we can hit our allies with this as well. But if we're a marshal and we're in an area where we don't have any allies, boom, we can hit all of our enemies around us with this. Pretty nice, but it is quite a bit of a range on this, so again, be careful with this. I really like what they're doing. They're taking the Aphorite and the Gonzi and putting them under Nephilim rather than their own heritage, which honestly makes things a lot simpler. But if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and do all that other YouTube stuff. Subscribe, all that. And you can also check out the links in the description below for my Discord, my social media, and my Patreon. If you guys want to see the other options for Nephilim, I've got a video for that right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.